last time the three of us were on this show, it was college baseball season. Unfortunately, college baseball season is over. But college football, let's ride. Andrew Selover, Ian Nicholas, Adam Cohen with you for the No Pulp Podcast. And guys, it's been a while, but it's good to be back.
Good to be back talking football.
Yeah,
am I right?
Definitely. I mean, college baseball is difficult, but football's football. It's easy.
This is our roundhouse.
All right, well, right off the jump, we got to get to the new college football playoff rankings. Came out today, and a lot of chalk, in my opinion. What did you guys see?
Well, we saw Georgia at 1. Yep. I think we all expected that. I think the good thing to see, right, was Bama at 8.
Yes.
Obviously, 2 losses. We've never seen a college football playoff team with multiple losses, but it's finally starting to settle in. Bama's not going to be in the playoffs.
No, it's about dang time that we don't see Bama in there. We see them every year, Bama and Clemson. Like, it's nice that Bama's 8 and Clemson's 9, and I'll be honest, I don't see either of them coming anywhere close to the college football playoff, and it warms my heart. It really does.
And they haven't earned it either. It's not like they had a couple of fluky losses. These are teams that, even over the last few years, have shown dents in their armor, and finally other teams like TCU and Tennessee, really nice programs, big fan bases, deserve winners, and they've come out of nowhere this year, and it's exactly what the college football world has needed.
Well, I mean, Brian Kelly down at LSU is licking his chops and super, super happy that he went for that 2-point conversion because it all but eliminated Bama from the college football playoff.
It did eliminate Bama. First time in 10 years that Alabama's had 2 losses before Thanksgiving, which is crazy to think about. It's really a testament to what Nick Saban's done down in Tuscaloosa, but he hasn't gotten it done this year. And so, like you said, already setting the scene, Georgia and LSU in the SEC title game. And we go through those rankings, and I think everybody's not super surprised that it's Georgia, and then Ohio State and Michigan. And then I think they have to throw TCU in at 4 because they're one of just 4 undefeated teams, right? And then you get to Tennessee. What did you guys think? TCU over Tennessee, is that right?
Honestly, I was watching TCU over the past couple weeks because I've noticed their little rise to stardom here, and they're a good team. Very underrated. They've got a good defense. They shut down Texas last week. Like, Texas is a good football team. They played well with Bama, and I believe they have a couple upset losses in there. They're a feisty football team, and TCU shut them down and told them, get out.
Like, why are people sleeping on TCU? I don't get it. This is a team that I understand coming off a really bad season, new coach, this wasn't expected, but they have played an unbelievable brand of football. Undefeated, legitimate Power 5 contender. They've brought big recruits in there in the past. I don't understand. You know, Tennessee didn't look like they belonged in Georgia's class when they played. And Andrew, I know that brings a smile to your face because of your Georgia roots, but, you know, with TCU, I think they could have kept it that close as well. So I really don't understand why TCU, who's shown on both sides of the ball they can get it done, they have a big-time quarterback. Why is everyone sleeping on the Horned Frogs?
Well, round of applause for what TCU's done under a new coach and Sonny Dykes in 1 year, right? You turn that program around, not only just like bowl eligible, 10-0, and in the college football playoff top 4 at the moment. They control their own destiny, right? TCU wins out. It's a lock that they're in the playoffs.
A lock, which is crazy.
That is crazy.
And it's awesome. Again, every year, I get it. I'm not the biggest college football guy because every year it's just the same 4 teams that are in the playoff. And it's just so refreshing to see programs with new names, new faces, new storylines emerging. I mean, if the expanded playoff is going to have success, we need to see more teams come up to the plate and say, you know what, we're going to take our shots, we're going to play all out, and we aren't just going to settle for a bowl game. We're not just going to settle for 8 wins, 9 wins. We are really going to invest in our programs another notch and prove we can do it.
All right, let's talk real quick about the rest of the rankings and where you guys think the committee messed up in your opinions. I draw my eye to 6 and 7, right? LSU, 2 losses at 6. USC 1 loss at 7, right?
I think LSU was a bit of an overcorrection. At the beginning of the year, their losses really didn't look too bad, and they were unranked for a while. And then all of a sudden, they come soaring up the rankings. I don't know if you agree with that. Again, I don't know, talent-wise, why?
I'm not a huge USC guy. I mean, I watched the migration out to Los Angeles, California that was the transfer portal last year. But LSU has had better wins. Beating Bama is a huge win. I don't know if they went toe-to-toe with Tennessee this season, but or Georgia yet. But Bama's a great win for LSU. USC just doesn't have that. First of all, they play a cake schedule. An absolute cake schedule.
You can't control you playing the Pac-12. There's a reason why they're getting out of there.
I know, but they didn't face Oregon. They didn't face Washington. All they faced was Utah, and they dropped that. Yes, it was last second, but they lost that game. So in my eyes, they don't really have the wins to stack up against LSU.
But are you taking LSU right now over USC? They play right now. You're taking the Tigers.
I'm taking the Tigers,
I'm not. Too much star power. Too much star power with the Trojans. Caleb Williams, nobody's talking about him anymore because, look, we all got to get our Z's. He's playing at 11 p.m. at night. I'm not staying up for anybody unless it's my man Dorian Thompson-Robinson. DTR. We'll talk about him later in the podcast.
We'll also talk about USC a little bit later. And Adam mentioned no really key wins so far for USC. They got a chance down the stretch. UCLA, Notre Dame to finish out the schedule. And we'll preview both of those games in a little bit. But what I draw a big smile on my face from in this year of college football is how close everything is.
Yes.
We had a 10-year period where there were only a handful of teams competing. It felt like there was a 4 or 5 year period where it was Clemson and Alabama miles ahead of everybody else. Maybe Ohio State got in there once in a while, right? It was boring. And now I think we've seen a lot of complaints towards college football playoff expansion. In 2022, we've seen a year where it makes sense, in my opinion. Because you think about LSU, 2 losses, right? Even if they went out win the SEC title game, probably still not in the college football playoff. But a 1-point loss to Florida State in week 1 off a missed PAT, that's one play where if LSU does something differently, they're playing for a playoff spot right now. Alabama, 2 losses, right? Think about those 2 losses. 2 plays away from being undefeated right now, Alabama. 2-point conversion to LSU. That goes wrong, they're still in the playoff conversation. It's crazy. Tennessee, a loss by 3 points, right? Something changes in that game. If they win those 2 games, they're number 1 in the country still right now. It's crazy the small separations between 1 and 10 right now in college football. It used to be miles, and now it's inches.
So what's changed? I mean, obviously, the close games, more teams, but what has changed?
Transfer portal.
Exactly.
Yes. I think that you can get experienced players, bring them in where you need them to fill your gaps. And so an Alabama that out-recruits everybody, well, they might not be as experienced as these other teams, and that's why it's all shrinking, in my opinion.
Nobody talked about that when they were ragging on the transfer portal.
Everyone still rag on it.
Well, why? Because we've already proven, we just proved the game is better. It's on a week-to-week basis. It's a better product when each team, again, can build up their rosters and actually give themselves a chance to compete with the top 5, 10 teams of the nation.
I just still feel like it's free agency. This isn't the NFL. I feel like it's free agency.
It should be more like the NFL.
With all the NIL deals, this is college football, then there's NFL football. So, I mean, we got bigger fish to fry from the college football playoff to a bunch of rivalry games, so I'll save my rants for another time. But moving on here, if you look into a rivalry week, we got some good stuff, right?
Oh, we've got plenty of good stuff coming down the stretch in the last 2 weeks of college football. And real quick, before we preview any specific games, I want to give both of you a challenge.
No.
I'm going to give you a team or two. I'm going to give you a team or two in the college football playoff rankings. You tell me what their path is into the college football playoff.
Okay.
Ian, does Clemson have a way into the playoff?
No, because there were so many doubts about Clemson before their loss. You know, could DJ hold up? Could he really be the quarterback to get them there? And he's proven he nearly fumbled the bag against Syracuse. And then he did fumble the bag later on. So Clemson still got a ton of big-time recruits. I still have a ton of faith in Dabo Swinney as a leader. We're going to finish the year out strong. But this year, just like last year, it's not their year.
The offense isn't going to make it there. That's just the way it is. Their defense is still top in the country.
For sure.
Going over their stats last night, it was mind-boggling how good they are. But from an offensive standpoint, they just don't have it. Their receiving corps just doesn't have it, and that's really what's going to drop them.
Does Alabama have a shot?
No.
What about USC?
They've got a shot. We already talked about it. We already touched upon it. We're going to actually, since their schedule is so tough down the stretch, we're talking about both of their games, so I'll save that But they've got a golden opportunity. Lincoln Riley has a golden opportunity to prove himself on the big stage and to prove why he made the move, and not only to enjoy the sunshine, but to enjoy the big-time wins at this storied program.
Right, so if USC wins out, they win UCLA, Notre Dame, and then they win in the Pac-12 championship.
I think they're in.
Do they jump over a one-loss Michigan or Ohio State?
Well,
I think they could jump over Michigan.
I would totally agree
Where's
with
the
you.
difference there? Michigan or Ohio State? Whichever wins that game, is it
Recency
different?
bias.
Oh, come on.
We've seen LSU jump up the polls because of recency bias. Why can't USC do it? Because of 2 legit wins.
Whichever.
No, but what's your problem with if Ohio State beats Michigan, you're saying USC, if they win out, could jump Michigan. If Michigan beats Ohio State, USC wins out, they can't jump Ohio State?
I'm saying there's a shot.
Okay.
I'm not saying it's a lock.
All right.
But you asked me, could it happen? You didn't say, will it happen?
USC's at 7, LSU's at 6 with 2 losses. Do they have a chance? LSU.
There's so many numbers that are flying around right now.
Does LSU have a chance? They've got 2 losses.
I think they've got a shot just because of that Bama win.
And
I think when you got that Bama win on your
I was gonna say their shot. It's not just because of the Bama game. That's a huge factor. Their shot comes against Georgia. If they win that game, how do you say no?
Because Georgia's been so untouchable.
I think
Exactly.
I think the way that you say no, depending on how other games shake out, is because they lost 40-13 to Tennessee. It's a blemish.
It's still Tennessee,
For sure.
though.
I know.
Tennessee's
But 2 losses.
number 5.
If you lost to Tennessee by 3, like Alabama did,
Yeah, you're a
Then
little more
fine.
competitive.
I would argue. I know LSU beat Alabama. They both have 2 losses, and LSU is by 1 point to Florida State, and by 27 to Tennessee. Alabama's are both by single digits.
You know what? You just jogged something in my brain. I'm going to redact the statement. Alabama's still got a shot. Unfortunately, because they're Alabama. They always want to
they'll
shove
always have a
Alabama in there. They
They'll
really
always
do.
have a shot.
They still have a shot.
Okay.
Because it's Bama,
I mean,
So what, they need like TCU to lose a game.
which very well could happen. I mean, I know I was praising them, but still, it could happen.
They need TCU out. They need Michigan out. I mean, they have the win over Tennessee. They need
No, they don't. Tennessee beat Alabama.
Oh,
Oh.
all right. So they
So
don't.
see,
They don't
that
have Tennessee
They
then.
need Tennessee to
this year.
lose like a game, I think.
They don't
right?
have Tennessee. So I mean, Alabama one has to win out. They have to hope Georgia embarrasses LSU in that championship, and they have to hope Tennessee loses. Because look, one of Michigan or Ohio State has to lose the game. So clearly that's going to bump them down.
No, but
I don't even
Alabama
think-
wouldn't jump either
Exactly.
of those
I
teams.
don't even think that's going to be enough. I think Michigan or Ohio
They need
State.
a big upset
they
of
need-
Tennessee or Michigan or Ohio State.
There needs to be
It could
some
happen, though. It could.
embarrassments.
Because if there's one team
could.
in that 6, 7, 8, 9 realm that still has a legit chance based on brand, based on familiarity in the playoff,
Bama.
it's all politics at the end of the
Bama.
day. They want to shove Bama in there. If there's even a small chance, they'll do it.
Maybe Tommy DeVito and the Illini will
No.
take down Michigan this weekend.
No.
And then
I would-
Michigan
I
loses
would
to Ohio
love to
State.
see it. I
And
would
then
love
there's
to
your
see it.
path.
Oh
well,
my God.
still got to get rid of TCU. Still got to hope some stuff goes in Tennessee. There's a lot of things that have to break for Alabama.
The door's open.
All right, let's
And quick
get into
throw.
rivalry week. And first, we'll get into the biggest game coming up before rivalry week.
Yeah.
We talk about a couple big games that could determine this playoff that we're talking about. This week, UCLA and USC. USC essentially has to win out to make the college football playoff. UCLA's chances are all but dashed.
We're done.
USC wins?
I don't think it's a lock.
Okay.
I mean, which team is home? UCLA?
Which team is home?
UCLA's at home.
UCLA.
Not
I mean,
that matters.
I mean,
they're
did
not-
you see the crowd
Neither of
shots?
them get crowds. It doesn't
it's
matter.
still, honestly, one thing
I might fly out there just to see my guy DRT. DTR.
Wow.
Can't even get his acronym right.
Is he better?
out to
Is he
LA.
better than Caleb Williams?
I think at his peak, he could be. I'm not saying, like, obviously Caleb Williams is the better prospect for the NFL. Obviously, on a game-per-game basis, Caleb Williams is the better quarterback and pure passer. But Caleb Williams can't do the things DTR can do.
I
He
mean-
simply cannot.
I mean, again, maybe it's the fact that USC is so stacked and those star players, because Caleb Williams' numbers are just out of this world. 31 pass TDs, over 3,000 yards, and only 2 interceptions. So that's some really good decision making. DTR is pretty good too. 20 touchdowns, 2,400 yards, 4 interceptions, but he's a little bit more of a rusher.
But
So-
all you're reading me are stats.
Yeah.
The eye test, just sometimes when you see the
Yeah,
eye
of
test,
course.
they pop. You see a guy who can change a game with one play.
Mm-hmm.
The momentum can swing in one play. You think you got everybody covered. You think the pass rush is coming home, and all of a sudden DRT is scrambling 50 yards down the sideline, hurdling one guy, juking the other, and your team's morale has sunk. Caleb Williams, yes, I understand. He can put touch on any football he throws. He can fit it in any tight window, but DTR can rip the soul out of your team.
Yeah.
And there's plenty of star power in this game. Zach Charbonnet, over 1,000-yard rusher for UCLA. Jalen Addison, everybody knows that name, right?
Yeah,
Wide
Jordan
receiver
Addison.
Jordan Addison.
Former Biletnikoff winner.
Biletnikoff winner, got the bag to go over to USC.
Keaton Slovis could use him right now.
A lot of teams could use him.
Yeah,
he hasn't had any off-the-charts performances. But what I wish was maybe UCLA didn't lose to Arizona, and this would be a game of two one-loss teams.
Arizona team fights.
Arizona, they've been.
Can you imagine USC and UCLA both one loss and both playing for their playoff hopes this weekend? That would be exciting.
You can't. The one thing that scares me about this game is you got to remember Chip Kelly's on that sideline.
Is that a good or a bad thing?
Yeah, it's a bad thing.
I'm waiting to see where this one goes.
That's a bad thing. Look,
he's a bad thing.
Quarterback whisperer, but the rest of the team, he doesn't whisper anything. He's just silent.
Yeah,
so
that's true.
I really don't know how much of a leader Lincoln Riley is. I know he's an offensive czar, an elite play caller, another quarterback guru type. But when Chip Kelly's on that sideline, it's really hard to trust that team in a big game.
I mean, hey, the thing about USC is they've got the star power. Like that's it. They've got the people in the positions to go do whatever they want. Like even on the defensive side, and I'm going to read more stats.
Oh gosh.
Tui Pulutu.
You need a pronunciation guide.
I'm working on it here. He's a defensive lineman for USC. He's got 11.5 sacks and almost 18 tackles for loss this season. So he's a guy that's clearly going to be in that backfield and is clearly going to be gunning for DTR.
He's going to be too slow to get him.
We'll see.
Nobody can tackle this guy.
He might be slicing through that UCLA offensive line, and DTR doesn't even have a moment to think to run.
DTR does his best work when he's not thinking.
That's probably true. I mean, if we're given predictions, if we're going to get to there, I have to take USC. I think the star power is just going to overpower a UCLA defense that I don't think can handle it. I think the offenses are going to be explosive, but I think when it comes down to the defensive battle, USC can beat UCLA.
I have USC as well.
I got UCLA.
All right.
I just think USC, we mentioned it, cupcake schedule heading into this one. Not only have they not played anybody outside of a Pac-12 that scares you, they haven't played anybody in the conference relay that scares you until right now. And they've had some really close games over the last few. Cal, Arizona. And they lost, you said.
Although last second type.
But I do think that I think USC has a little bit more experience when you talk about Lincoln Riley, you talk about Caleb Williams, two guys that have been there, done that, in playing in these big games and playing for playoff hopes on the line. And that's something that if USC is able to pull off the win this week, well, they'll be playing for playoff hopes the next week as well.
That's so much
rivalry
pressure,
week.
though.
Notre Dame comes to town.
Oh, yeah.
If USC can get it done, one-loss team still playing Notre Dame the week after at home, the Fighting Irish have been better of late, right?
Very good. I wonder what's changed.
Not Drew Pine, because Drew Pine...
he's changed.
I have in my notes when we get to Notre Dame, let Ian go. Just let him have his Drew Pine fun and keep moving.
2 moments tonight I'm going to have fun, and one of them's coming up. I don't know why you're looking down, because they've only been looking up with one man under center.
But before we get to the Notre Dame
talk,
about to lose it. Yeah, he's ready.
Drew Pine's so bad at football.
Are you kidding me? How can you be bad at football and throw 5 touchdowns in the first half against one of the most disciplined teams in the country in Navy?
Again.
It's Navy!
That's a Navy team that goes out there every week, plays their tails off, does it the right way, and Drew Pine made him look like Swiss cheese. Made him look like Norwalk High School out there. It was unbelievable. I know that's a reference nobody will get.
Yeah, I'm a little lost on that one.
Look,
all right, let's talk about the last time that he played a Power 5 team. He threw for 85 yards. The time before that, 116.
You mean when he beat Clemson? You mean when he beat Clemson?
He didn't do anything.
He threw for a touchdown. He ran for a touchdown.
Clemson beat themselves.
Freeman named him one of his players of the game.
Clemson beat themselves.
You just don't want to give this guy any of the credit.
Look, it's not that I'm not willing to give him any credit. Clemson beat themselves that game. Syracuse beat themselves when they played.
That's just not true.
In what world are we saying that a guy that went 9 for 17 for 85 passing yards won the game?
Sometimes it's bigger than the box score. There's no advanced analytic that measures heart. There's no.
This is absurd.
There's no advanced analytic that measures what a guy can do for your team. This team was 0-2. Notre Dame lost to Marshall. I mean, Marcus Freeman looked like an absolute fraud of frauds. And what changes? New quarterback under center.
The last 2 games where Drew Pine played against Power 5 teams, he had less passing yards than Audric Estime had rushing yards.
Who?
Audric Estime, the guy that went off in the JMA Wireless.
The only reason I'm saying that is because even Dino Babers didn't know who Audric Estime was after he ran for 200 yards against him.
Yeah.
Can you believe that?
Yeah,
I mean, a reporter was in the crowd and he said, "What'd you think of Audric Estime?" And Dino Babers was like, "Who? What?" I mean, that's unbelievable.
It's Dino. The guy compares players to Bambi.
But he did say Drew Pine was shifty before the game, which he is.
Yeah, and he didn't say it after the game because he didn't do anything.
Again, Syracuse beat themselves from the first play where Garrett Schrader went, yeah, that guy in gold, I think
Brandon
I'm gonna throw
Joseph.
to him. Yeah,
It's an All-American right there.
Tossed him a ball right there, which he ran back for a touchdown.
All right, you can praise Brandon Joseph all you want. You can praise Michael Mayer all you want.
Good
you can
play.
praise,
I was gonna
you can
say,
praise Audric Estime all you want. Don't come on this show and say that Drew Pine is a good quarterback.
State championship winning quarterback.
I don't care what he did in high school.
About to beat USC winning quarterback.
Yeah, his team is going to beat USC.
So is that your prediction here?
That's my prediction
his
there.
team's going to beat USC. He's not going to win the game, though.
What? He gets the win.
That's a game that's going to be
Notre
the
Dame
quarterback
wins
stat.
the game. No, it's not.
He does a fine job.
No, he does a
He does a winning
mediocre
job.
at best job.
He is serviceable. I'll give you that.
Thank
He's
you.
a serviceable quarterback.
He's like every other Notre Dame quarterback.
He's a serviceable quarterback.
Ian Book is in the NFL.
Much better than
he's
Drew
really
Pine,
not.
mind you.
Look, you give Drew Pine one more year.
They're all system quarterbacks.
Give him one more year, see what he does next year. We're talking all this playoff nonsense.
Yeah, we'll see what he does next year because the year after that, we got a 5-star and C.J. Carr coming in to take his spot.
Why would you replace a winner?
Well,
Marcus Freeman
I'm
was
sorry
about to
that their
lose his
defense
job
is winning
in the middle of
games.
his first full
He was
season.
not going to lose his
that
job.
job was hanging by a thread. And all of a sudden,
all right,
bang.
Can we make
like
some
Mike
absurd.
Breen from the heavens? Number 10 came to save the show.
Can we make some predictions? Notre Dame, USC, quickly, so we can.
Who do you have,
close
Adam?
this box. I have USC. I think the star power once again will beat Notre Dame. Not to mention, Notre Dame has to fly out to LA. So that, yes, I know the home thing.
When
doesn't
Drew
sound
Pine
real.
had to make the 40-minute trip up to St. Joseph's, he lost by 50. So, you know, I do give you that one.
Okay, well, thanks for that stat.
You're welcome.
That's pretty helpful. That boosts my case. But I think USC with the star power is going to beat Notre Dame.
No, Notre Dame's one of the hottest teams in the country. And not because of Drew Pine, because of what their defense...
Partially.
No,
A
it's
sliver.
all because of
2%,
Marcus Freeman's
2%.
defense.
2% like the milk.
He's
strong.
It's all because of Marcus Freeman's defense. They've been fantastic. That's the single reason they won the Clemson game.
They got it together.
And Notre Dame, in my opinion,
That defense that gave up like 30 points in the second half to Navy.
Notre Dame will win a national championship in the next 5 years under Marcus Freeman.
But will Drew Pine be the quarterback?
No, he won't be.
No.
Once they get a legit, Marcus Freeman's recruiting at a super high level.
Likable guy.
Number three.
Notre Dame.
Hold on. Number 3 recruiting class in the country for the next year. Number 1 in the country for the year after that. That hasn't happened at Notre Dame in the past 20 years. Brian Kelly was a game managing coach that won them games, but he didn't recruit like that. Marcus Freeman has turned this around in a hurry,
he's faking
and Notre
accents,
Dame's going to be
help.
legit. They're 18 in the country right now in what's considered a down year for the Irish.
It's not all about recruiting classes, Andrew. It's a lot, but look at the team with the best recruiting class this season. Texas A&M.
Well, I'm sorry that Marcus Freeman. I'm sorry that
stock.
Marcus Freeman's a better coach than Jimbo Fisher.
That's a hot take right there. This season, of course.
In what world?
Of course.
Jimbo's 3-7.
Yeah, that's not a hot take.
His first year with Notre Dame, and they're going to a bowl game
That
because he
tough
helped turn
SEC
it
schedule
around.
right there. Tough.
It doesn't matter.
Okay, you're
Notre
right.
Still the
Dame's
number 1
played
recruiting
legit
class.
teams.
You should show up on Saturdays.
You're right.
Notre
should.
Dame's
Getting a little
played
carried
4
away.
ranked teams, including a top 4 Clemson and a number 2 Ohio State when they played them.
And a ranked Syracuse team.
All right. I got Notre Dame. That's all I know. They're going to win against USC.
He knows. He
I
doesn't want to admit it. but he knows why he
I think Notre Dame wins out. It's not because of Drew Pine, but I think they win out.
Defense.
Wins out.
All
Can I
right,
mention something really
in the
quickly?
Midwest. Yeah,
Don't worry, it's not related to the quarterback under center. Do you think teams play better once their pressure of the playoff is off? Because I was thinking about it. In the UCLA-USC matchup,
maybe
what team has to win that game?
USC.
And then, even if they win that game, once again, who has to win that game? Notre Dame or USC?
USC.
Yeah.
I think that every mistake you make is just pops.
I think that's fair.
I think that gives UCLA and Notre Dame advantages because they really are just playing for really whatever they want at this point.
Well, let's go to a rivalry matchup where two teams are both playing for a playoff spot, and that's the game. Michigan, Ohio State, both undefeated at 10-0. If the Wolverines can avoid Tommy DeVito next week, then maybe both teams will be 11-0.
Really tough.
Are both of these teams going to the playoff no matter what?
No.
Why?
Because I think, I'll be honest, I think if Michigan loses, Tennessee's got one loss to Georgia. If they win out, they sneak in over Michigan.
So
Michigan's loss would be to Ohio State.
I'm curious. Now, both of you have done this in this show. Said if Michigan loses to Ohio State and then this happens, Michigan's out. Is there like some magic trick here that if it happens to Michigan, it's different than if Michigan beats Ohio State?
I'll be honest, I think it's the same way.
Okay.
I think either of these teams, because it's going to be, Georgia's number one.
Yes.
Georgia's number one. Tennessee has that number one loss on their resume. If they win out, that's it. For Ohio State and Michigan, they're going to have a number two team and obviously no shot at the Big Ten championship to prove themselves again. So I would take, or at least in the committee's eyes with a little SEC bias, I think they're going to take Tennessee at the 4 rather than Michigan or Ohio State, who are also one-loss teams, to a top 3 team.
It's really difficult. I mean, I do want to rag on Michigan because over the years, again,
I'd love to rag on Michigan.
It's easy to rag on them,
so
isn't it?
So easy.
But this year they have been really good.
They have
without great play at
Especially
quarterback.
in the second half.
Second half of the year, wiped Penn State, which at the time didn't look like a great win, but now Penn State is ranked 10th.
At the time, they were 11. It was still a good win.
Yeah, but
it wasn't.
Penn State kept it close with Ohio State.
Yes,
yeah,
they did.
Again, that's what I'm saying. They kind of proved themselves as the season's gone on more and more under Franklin. Yeah, Michigan's looked really good, but it's
at
tough.
Ohio State. It's
at
the
Ohio
Horseshoe.
State.
It's at the shoe.
As much as I also like to rag on C.J. Stroud. I got a nickname for him. System quarterback Stroud.
What?
And if there's any team that can break that system, it's Michigan, because that defense is really good.
I can't believe the fact that we've gone on this show, talked about how great of a quarterback Drew Pine is, and now come on and said that C.J. Stroud's a system quarterback.
Of course.
C.J. Stroud's about to be the number one overall.
There's a reason why every Ohio State quarterback doesn't do well in the National Football League.
Who's a better quarterback? Who's a better quarterback, C.J. Stroud or Drew Pine?
Okay. I'm not that much of a homer.
I'm
close.
Thank goodness, everybody.
But you can't drag me over the line.
Thank goodness.
Okay.
That's why I'm taking... No, I'm just joking. It's I
was expecting it.
Come on.
He's a really great player. He's got all the tools. But come on. When you've got Marvin Harrison Jr., one of the best receiving talents we've seen in the last decade out there. You see his catch last week? Did you see that catch, Andrew?
Yes, I did.
How did he not snap his fibula in half?
I don't know. Yeah. That doesn't matter.
Does Michigan have a guy like that?
Who's winning the game? Ohio State?
Yeah.
Ohio State?
It's at the shoe. I mean, these are top 2 teams, but Ohio State is... I seem to like star power right now, and Ohio State.
Neither of these teams have played close games either recently, so I'm interested if it does come down to the wire.
What about that Northwestern game?
I was just about to say.
That was a test.
It really was.
Northwestern hasn't won in the United States this season, and it shouldn't have been a test.
Maybe they should move on.
I think Michigan wins the game. I think Michigan makes it 2 years in a row and wins on the road. I think Michigan's a better team this season.
But what if they have to go blow for blow with Ohio State? Blake Corum can't carry them all the way to the finish line.
They won't have to go blow for blow because of that. It'll be a slower game, and they'll control the tempo.
Oh, come on. We say that all the time.
This is not the quick strike ability of Ohio State last year.
Why?
It's not.
It's a different Ohio State team.
I understand Jackson Smith-Njigba isn't right, but this offense is still unbelievable.
They had a much better wide receiver room last year. They have good,
but they have really good. Older.
I know they have really good receivers, but when you got Chris Olave on the field and Jackson Smith-Njigba, it was
I mean,
and
you
they were
have
all
JSN, Marvin
Jackson
Harrison
Smith
Jr.
and Jigba isn't healthy.
He's not healthy.
No.
But who knows? Maybe they bench him again this week.
They've
Get
got
him right for the
40-plus
Michigan
points
game.
in 4 of their last 5 games. You're telling me they can't strike down the field
State,
quickly?
Here's the thing about Ohio State.
Northwestern, good defense.
Here's the thing about Ohio State. If you put Michigan in a big hole early, let's say first quarter, end of the first, Ohio State's up 21-7. You don't take Blake Corum out of the game, but you take him out of the game plan a lot because you're playing catch up now. You need quick. Yeah. You need time efficient. Michigan doesn't have that ability. They've got, I mean, J.J. McCarthy is he's a quarterback. I can't say.
He is a quarterback.
He's no stud.
That's the hottest take we've had tonight.
Yeah. He's no stud is what I'm trying to say. But he's been efficient and has made some good decisions.
All right,
but
so you two have Ohio State.
Yes.
Yeah. All right, I'll take Michigan.
Okay.
Let's go to the Iron Bowl.
Fun.
Alabama, Auburn, one of the most meaningless Iron Bowls in recent history, in my opinion.
Well, not for one man.
Yeah.
Your man.
That's
Cadillac
my guy.
Williams.
That's my guy. Cadillac
I have my
Williams.
guy, you have yours.
All right. What Cadillac Williams has done with Auburn has been really impressive in the last 2 weeks. And I'm sure nobody's been watching it because Cadillac Williams isn't playing in big games because Auburn's not good. They're still bowl eligible. Keep that in mind. 2 wins out of Cadillac. Let's get the Tigers into a bowl game. 1 win's coming this week at Western Kentucky. Auburn's going to be playing for a bowl game.
Why are they on that schedule so late? Isn't that unbelievable?
Yeah. Auburn's playing for a bowl game against Alabama.
Yeah.
Cadillac Williams has fired up this program ever since they fired Harsin after the Arkansas loss. Auburn trailed 24-3 to Mississippi State. Came all the way back to force overtime. Didn't quite get it done because Cadillac, with 40 seconds left, decided to call his timeouts to ice a kicker on a game-time kick instead of saving him for a 40-second drive to try and win the game. But Cadillac has invigorated this fan base. He's brought energy back into it. Dominant win over Texas A&M, 13-10. The defense was fantastic.
Dominant 13-10 win?
Yeah, I mean, that's a number one recruiting class. I think Cadillac is the future of Auburn football. You can go get your big names. You can go get your big names. This is the hometown guy. He brings the energy. The players love him, and he gets a win against Alabama at Alabama, and Auburn goes bowling at 6-6.
Okay,
and Cadillac gets higher.
So while I tend to agree with you, Cadillac Williams has done a lot of great work bringing a Auburn program back from the dead, essentially, that Brian Harsin left for dead. But we mentioned earlier, Alabama could be playing for the playoff.
No, they're not.
They could be, though.
No, they're not.
The door's open.
Could be.
No, they're not.
But they could be. So
the problem with Alabama is they're not going to be in the SEC title game. You're not putting a 2-loss Alabama team that's not a conference type championship winner in.
Again, but chaos could break. Who knows? TCU could lose. Tennessee could lose.
Right,
and we've got a bunch of trickle effects.
Here's where I should tell you this. Georgia is going to be max a 1-loss team.
Yes.
Georgia's in. I think Ohio State and Michigan will max be 1-loss teams. They're both in over Alabama. That's 3. I think Tennessee's almost a lock to be a 1-loss team. They're in over Alabama. There's your 4 over Alabama.
So are you picking Auburn over Alabama?
Yeah. Auburn's going to win that football game.
Why?
Because Auburn's going to win the last 2 and be a bowl eligible.
Is it just because Bama has nothing to play for?
Your only argument is they have an opportunity to win a bowl game.
Go to a bowl game, not even win.
Has Alabama been impressive?
No, but it's still Alabama.
You just mentioned their 2 losses came down to just a few plays.
I
mean,
mean,
most losses.
I'm sorry.
And they beat Texas A&M by 4, and they beat Texas by 1, and they beat Ole Miss by 6.
So the game is close.
They're one possession away from being a 5-loss team too.
Oh, come on. It's Nick Saban on that sideline.
Do you,
as good as the
It's the Iron Bowl.
As good as the Cadillac Williams story
is. It's the Iron Bowl.
It's the Iron Bowl.
Come on now.
Do you really trust Auburn, a team with a quarterback? Their starting quarterback has thrown more interceptions.
I don't need to hear the numbers.
Touchdowns.
And that Bryce Young guy.
I don't need to hear the numbers. Auburn's winning the football game.
No, okay. Not.
Yeah.
Okay.
I give Cadillac Williams a lot of credit.
Live and let be. Live and let be.
You know, in a world where Jeff Saturday is getting hired to be the head coach of an NFL team, Cadillac Williams should be the president of the United States. I mean, he wants to serve Auburn. He can serve me.
All right, another disagreement then. 2 Alabama picks, 1 Auburn pick.
I didn't make my pick.
All right.
I'm clearly going Alabama.
You're taking Auburn? No, I didn't think so. All right, 2 Alabama, 1 Auburn.
You're still a little crazy for that one.
All right, let's move to a rivalry week game called Clean Old Fashioned Hate. It used to mean a lot. Now it just means an automatic W
Were you
for the
alive
Georgia
when it
Bulldogs.
meant a lot?
I was. There were years where Georgia Tech shocked Georgia. There were years where Georgia Tech was. I could. Georgia Tech was in the Orange Bowl like 8 years ago, and they were a better team that year.
Okay.
Back when Paul Johnson and Richt were the two coaches, there were years where Georgia Tech was a better team because Georgia was not at the level they're at now. It's a free W every year now. Right. And you add in the fact that Jeff Sims is no longer on the team for the rest of the year for Georgia Tech. They're down to the third-string quarterback.
Tyson Pumashon.
It's a question of whether Georgia's going to win by 55 or 65.
Okay, Tyson Pumashon, former Clemson backup, Fairfield County, Connecticut native, he's going to give them a shot to cover whatever spread is on that game.
All I know,
probably like a 50-point spread,
is if Auburn goes big name over there and tries to hire Lane Kiffin or somebody else, I want Cadillac in Atlanta.
You want Cadillac in Atlanta?
I want Cadillac in Atlanta.
No shot.
Why not?
But just
he's going to stay in that Auburn staff. There's no way he leaves. Head coaching job or not.
But just to make sure
he'd
quickly.
take the head coach at Georgia Tech over a coaching staff role at Auburn. It's a head coaching role in the ACC.
We have a Georgia sweep here, right? I just want to make sure of that.
Yes.
Okay.
How about we just, how close will this game be? Will it be within 4 touchdowns?
I just told you it's either 55 or 65.
They're going to win. You're telling me that Georgia Tech isn't going to keep it within 55 points?
They'll be lucky to.
Oh, wow. Where's your pride?
I can see like a 6-touchdown difference.
Truth be told, Georgia Tech is still not out of bowl eligibility. They'd have to beat North Carolina
this week. Bowl eligibility thing. Do teams turn superhuman when they're 2 games below 500 with 6 losses and a mathematical shot at the playoff? I mean, a playoff appearance, a postseason
in college football, sometimes they do, actually.
Oh, my gosh.
Lord.
Georgia Tech's not winning the football game.
Will you be watching the game? As a lifelong Georgia Tech fan, will you be watching the game?
Shouldn't take much.
No.
What if Jeff Sims comes back?
Still no.
He calls you the night before. He says, Andrew.
Still no.
For you, I'm coming back.
Syracuse men's soccer is more important than that game.
Oh, thank goodness. Right. That's something we'll never cover on the podcast.
Well, we covered college baseball.
Georgia wins by at least 6 touchdowns.
Ooh. All right.
It's at least
think that's
42.
Fair. I think that's fair, although I'll be honest.
What do you have to say that Georgia doesn't win by 40?
West Durham's not going to have a fun time calling that game.
West Durham's not calling the game.
I know, but he should be. It would be more fun.
But, Jordan, what do you have to say that Georgia's not going to win by 50?
Yeah, there's not much evidence against it. I mean, Georgia.
I'm not a big Stetson Bennett guy.
Georgia, I agree with you, but it's still. I mean, you look.
What
at that.
What are you looking at me like
defense.
that? Stetson Bennett should be like a preschool teacher right now. He shouldn't be playing quarterback.
What is it? What is he? An 8th-year senior?
People forget that Georgia beat Oregon 49-3. That's still the most impressive win of the season.
Dan Lanning's got that team back on track.
He does.
He did
but
until
I think
last
that's
week.
still the most impressive win of the season out of any team scoreboard-wise.
He wrecked an Oregon team with a new quarterback and a new system and a new coach and a new system. I can't say it's like a monumental win. Yes, Oregon was ranked number 11 at the time, but it's not a monumental win in my mind. Honestly, if Georgia and Oregon played today, I think the final score would be 49-30, something in that range. Mm-hmm. Georgia would still win, don't get me wrong. But
Bo Nix thinks that Oregon will win, but...
Well, of course. What do you want him to come out and say?
And I think Bo Nix should be a Heisman candidate.
All right, enough about the dogs. I don't care about the dogs.
Hold on. Bo Nix should be a Heisman candidate.
I believe Bo Nix should be a Heisman candidate.
Have
you seen what that guy has done?
Yes. He's because I'm sleeping.
Put Oregon on his back. I've been an Oregon Ducks fan since I was in 6th grade, and that is because I didn't want to go to sleep, and I liked watching.
Is that because you like Chip Kelly?
No, it was because I liked watching college basketball at night. And Oregon and Arizona were feuding one night, and it turned me into an Oregon fan.
Man.
That I didn't have parents who went to colleges who were big on college sports, so I got to choose my own path, and I chose the Ducks.
Wow.
All right, let's talk about a game that's not going to be 55-3. North Carolina, NC State in 2 weeks.
Speaking of Heisman candidates.
Speaking of a team that could still be in the playoff race.
Yeah.
North Carolina.
I mean, look, I like me some Mac Brown. I like me some of that May kid. Ooh, man.
Drake May.
Heisman candidate.
A Heisman candidate, yes.
That's a real Heisman candidate.
34 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. Nuts.
I think.
Unbelievable.
Drew Pine ain't doing that.
He did it against Navy. He did it against Navy.
It's the midshipmen. They run the triple option still.
That's not the defense, though.
That's a system that Georgia Tech got away from 10 years ago, and look at Georgia Tech now.
I think, and feel free to debate me here.
We will.
Drake May should be the front runner for the Heisman.
Why isn't he? Why isn't he?
I don't know. I'm not a voter.
What an up and down past 2 weeks for NC State, though.
Yeah,
NC State the last 2 weeks wins against Wake Forest and then loses to Boston College.
That's a 180.
Right. They got a game at Louisville to try and get on the right track. But North Carolina, I'm not completely sold that they're out of the playoff conversation. You win out, you win the conference championship over Clemson.
You're a one-loss team? Yeah.
I don't think the committee would do it, but I think still you have an argument against a Ohio State or Michigan that you're a one-loss conference champion and they're not.
Some things still need to break certain ways.
They do.
That's what it comes down to, because UNC...
I'd be inclined, if TCU lost, to put a one-loss UNC team that's a conference champion over TCU.
I agree with that.
If TCU loses, they're not getting in the playoff.
Plus, the only loss for North Carolina, North Carolina was Notre Dame, which looks a lot better than it did.
Who's the quarterback of that game? Sorry, had to rub it in. Drake May is a better quarterback than Drew Pine.
So North Carolina's legit right now, right? Mac Brown somehow in his old age has turned the
Mac Brown's done nothing for that team.
What?
What do you mean? Drake May went there because he's legacy. He didn't recruit Drake May there.
Fine, but
Drake May went there aware of a great uniforms and play great football with some pretty good receivers.
I was looking over their stats last night.
Mac Brown's the coach, Ian.
Yes.
They're 9-1.
UNC's recruiting. I don't know if you were following college recruiting.
Not all about the coach. You see what Drake May does on a weekly basis? 90% of what he does doesn't need coaching. It needs him.
Sure, but Mac Brown still had to build the rest of the team.
You mean the team with one of the worst defenses ever? That defense is awful.
It's not awful. It's just not great.
Wow.
So they're coming along. They're working on it. They're working on it. But
they're working on it. We're 10 games in. That defense isn't getting any better.
Their offense, though, is ridiculous. And that is Drake May. Josh Downs has had a great season.
Great player.
Great season. 11 touchdowns. That's pretty darn good. So I think the offense overpowers anything else. And I think the defense can just hang on. I do. I think the defense can just hang on.
So you think Carolina wins that game?
Yes.
Ian, Carolina? NC State. I mean, Devin Leary.
No, there's no shot NC State wins that game. Jack Chambers can't get it done in a big game.
They don't have an offense.
North Carolina wins that game, in my opinion, too. And they play Georgia Tech this week. Game's at 5:30, which is nuts. That tells you everything you need to know about Georgia Tech.
People eating supper then.
Yeah, that's Southern cooking right there. I think it's a one-loss Clemson against a one-loss UNC in a title game that becomes a little more important than people thought in the ACC. Not sure if it has playoff implications, but it might.
It could. I just don't think
And we
it
talk
will.
about Clemson. Clemson still has to get to that game with one loss. Big game at the end of the season against South Carolina for who runs the Palmetto State.
Oh, come on.
What?
South Carolina is nothing.
But Clemson's nothing, too, in my opinion.
Nothing? Clemson's still a good team.
Clemson's still Clemson.
What has South Carolina proven this year?
What is Clemson
Outside of their coach did that little TikTok video at the beginning of the year. He was in the locker room and the lights turned off and he started dancing. He hasn't proven anything.
What has Clemson proven?
They're still Clemson. Yes, they lost a really bad game to Notre Dame, but they were still pretty good other than that. And I don't think South Carolina can go toe-to-toe with them.
Right, I don't either because South Carolina's trending in the wrong direction.
Well, we were talking before the show about how Notre Dame would be such a great team if they had a better quarterback, right? Clemson is still that team, and DJ is holding them back. Yeah. But South Carolina just doesn't have the athletes, the team, the momentum to really stand a chance in this game.
No, I don't see South Carolina coming anywhere close. Clemson still has a great defense. They really do. It's a great defense. And I mean, I don't know anybody really other than Spencer Rattler on South Carolina. And the guy is terrible.
Oh my goodness.
So I think the Clemson defense is literally going to eat him alive. So off of that, I don't think this is going to be even remotely close.
Yeah, and you talk about a South Carolina team that's lost to Missouri, only beat Vanderbilt by 11, and lost to Florida by 32
Vanderbilt
in the last
with a big
3 weeks.
win.
Facts. Vanderbilt's still bowl eligible too at the moment.
My goodness.
They haven't reached it, but they're 4-6. The Commodores,
4-6 is
baby.
your favorite record.
Yeah, that's
If a
2
team
wins
is
away.
You like rooting for teams that can get
That's
to
2
the
wins
bowl.
away. I mean, the Commodores won't get it done because they're
They're what?
Because they have to play Tennessee.
Yeah, I was going to say, who
Tennessee.
else?
I'm a big Hendon Hooker guy.
Sad.
I thought he was going to be the Heisman winner.
If only the
Only
Commodores.
Drake May didn't
unfortunately.
exist.
Yeah.
Drake May
Or
should
system
win
quarterback.
So we
Stroud.
talk about Vanderbilt, and that's a team that has been down in the dumps for a while.
Unfortunately.
You want to know another team that's been down in the dumps for a while?
Oh, I know.
The Huskies of Connecticut.
But they're back.
They
I
are.
wouldn't go that far, but they're going bowling.
You know who their head coach's name is? Tell me what his name is.
Jim Mora.
You're not pronouncing it right.
Sorry, Jim Mora Jr.
No, he's actually not a junior.
Oh, my
His
bad.
name is Him Hora. Because he walked into that program. I don't even know where Jim Mora's been the last 5 years. He hasn't been coaching. Hasn't felt like it. My goodness, is this team back? That's why I say this one thing. I hope UConn plays Syracuse in the bowl game. I know they won't. But imagine a world where UConn beat Syracuse in the bowl game. And Syracuse finished the year 6 and 7.
I don't really want to imagine that.
That's
I do.
That's a whole different game right now if those two teams play.
I agree. I mean,
So different.
we did crush UConn 48-14. Yes, it was much earlier in the season, but like, we're still Syracuse. They're still UConn.
What do you mean? We're still the team that just got annihilated on senior night.
I still think
by
Florida
35
State. Florida
points.
State is a top 25 team.
We were for 4 weeks. Syracuse was a top.
Yeah, that was a good 4 weeks.
Unbelievable.
That was a good 4 weeks. That's about it.
It was a great 4 weeks, wasn't it?
It was a really good 4 weeks.
UConn, man, I can't wait to see what this team does. I'm not even a UConn fan. I lived in a nutmeg state my entire life. I've never had expectations for this team whatsoever. Never. Until now.
Yeah.
If they can get
And
their
it's big
offense,
wins over interesting teams, too, right? A 10-point win, 13-3 over Boston College. Really good stuff out of UConn this year.
Really is.
All right, real quick before we go, national champion.
Whew, on the spot there. My national champion, I hate to be so chalk. It has to be Georgia.
National champion.
Don't say Notre
System,
Dame.
quarterback Stroud, get some hardware. Ohio State.
Wow. What the TCU Horned Frogs?
No.
All right, it's been a pleasure. Adam Cohen, Ian Nicholas, Andrew Selover. Go Frogs.